Welcome to So Very Easy. My name is Laura, and if you're like me, you do not like to throw out your scrapped quilt batting. When you've finished making your quilt, we trim it off, and well, I don't like throwing those edges away. Now, a lot of times I can use the pieces for small projects, placemats, runners. There are a lot of little things I can use. However, I cannot make enough small projects to actually use up all of the fabric that I do have. So a lot of times I will take my long pieces that I've trimmed off and I sew them together, and it gets me a very large piece, and it's a little bit easier to work with a bigger piece. Let me show you a way that you can trim them and sew them together. If you have two straight seams, very simple, you're able to join those two quite well. We usually don't have the case of it being a straight seam. It's usually a zigzag or all cut up. So we need to be able to join these two odd sizes together. The first thing you do is make sure your batting is nice and flat on your surface. Then you will overlap just slightly, joining up one edge, and just make sure it's nice and flat. The next thing, you will just cut between these layers. Now, you do not need to use a ruler. As long as you are just fairly straight, you're going to be fine. Just cut through both the layers, and you'll be able to see. Now that you've cut through both layers, you will be able to remove this top piece, and you will be able to remove the bottom piece. And you'll be able to do that all the way along. Now what you have are two seams that actually match. And you will need to bring this to the sewing machine, and you are going to zigzag these layers together. So keep these edges together, and let's go to the machine and sew them. Now, to set up the machine, it's very easy. You need to have the presser foot as loose as you can in here, and you can usually adjust the pressure on this foot. After all, you're going to put batting in here, and the batting is a little thicker than fabric, and you do not want the feed dogs to fight against you. So have it as open as you can. The next thing you need to do is have a foot that you can actually do a zigzag on. Your zigzag should be as wide as possible, and the stitch length should be as large as possible. You're doing the largest zigzag you can with less presser foot here. Pull your threads to the top and move them out of your way, and that way they won't get tangled in the bottom of the batting. Now you're going to butt the edges together and zigzag all the way down. You are not going to overlap. You are just going to butt together. Put your foot down, put your needle down, and start it. Just keep your batting loose, let the feed dogs do the work, and keep your seams together. Do not pull or push on any of the batting. The feed dogs are on each side of the foot, and it will evenly pull this fabric in as long as you don't pull the fabric one way or the other. All you need to do is drive it and keep the layers together. Even though this was not a straight line, it was actually cut so that these layers match. So they will match together. When you come to the end, just go right off. You won't need to knot that at all. Now we just do the next piece, and so on. So far, so good. As you can see, I've sewn about 5 strips together, and even a little square here and there. Since I'm a quilter, I basically just quilted all of my batting together. Now the entire batting is lying flat except for this one little piece, and we can solve that problem. And it's basically just making seams match and doing it. So just cut a little piece out so that you can have that lie flat. Take your rotary cutter, and just like you did the other seams, start here, go down. You'll be able to take that piece off and the piece on the back, And now you will be able to take that to the machine and stitch right here, and it will lie flat like the rest of the quilt. So there we have it. I've cut a whole pile of pieces and I've just kept matching them together, and now this is a big enough size for me to work with. This will be a great piece of batting for me to use on one of those projects perhaps I'm just not sure about, or maybe I just want to have a quilt that's going to be a little bit of fun. And it is very strong, so you don't have to worry about it coming apart in your quilts. Once they're quilted, they will stay strong. The other thing is now I have all of these little pieces left over from cutting the edges off. You can just toss them away, or you can make batting confetti. Let me show you how. Okay, so now I have a bunch of these little strings left from the batting, and this is all batting. You can keep them and save them to stuff pillows. When they're left in these long strings, sometimes the pillow will be a little bumpy. So just take this, lie it out flat, take your rotary cutter, and just make confetti. And if you just continue to do this, then eventually you're just going to have tiny little pieces that you can use to stuff with. Is this getting carried away? Maybe just a little, but it's a challenge to see how much you can use up and how much you don't waste. I hope you've enjoyed this episode on taking little pieces of batting to make a big piece of batting. I'm so glad you could join me. Feel free to subscribe, and as always, come on back again and let's see what we're sewing next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.